This is KGW News at Sunrise.
A home invasion left an 89-year-old woman tied up in her own home.
Somebody of that age being preyed upon in that way is disturbing to anybody in the community. And
we'll hear from shaken neighbors in this Hood River retirement community.
Also this morning, the state of Oregon is going to need a lawyer to handle a lawsuit that claims the state doesn't have enough lawyers. What the story is really about is the state's lack of public defenders. So we're going to take a closer look in just a few minutes.
Also, Pride Month begins in June, and a new book hopes to start the conversation about pride with kids. We hear from that Corvallis author coming up a little later on Sunrise.
It is a Tuesday morning on the Sunrise Show. Nina has the day off again today. Rodney is back. So remember yesterday, gang, it was National Barbecue Day.
Yes.
We celebrated with tasty food in the studio.
Yeah, fabulous.
Today, not barbecue day. We have no tasty food in the studio, so I'm hoping you make up for the lack of food with a beautiful Tuesday forecast.
This is the most depressing day of the week so far.
No, it's not.
No barbecue.
Tell me about the weather, Rod. This is good.
Yesterday was great, right? The majority of us turned out to be completely dry. A few spots picked up just a dab of rain showers. We hit my forecast high of 66. So today we should be a little bit warmer, so that gets us close to 70. These clouds, no moisture with them, just kind of fetching across our sky. And you can see the moon up over the Cascades. That's kind of a pretty illuminated early morning shot for one of our Timberline live cams. Looks like we will be starting off with sunshine. It's partly cloudy out there right now. We'll go about 45 at the bus stop this morning. We'll be nearing 60 at noon, partly to mostly sunny skies, light winds. We'll be 67 mid-afternoon. We could go on to hit 70 for a high temperature.
All right, more from Rod coming up in about 10 minutes, but right now we want to get to our top story this morning. It's today's primary election in Oregon. So we've talked about this a lot over the last few weeks. You have to make sure your ballot is postmarked, that is, no later than today, or drop it into an official county elections drop box by 8 o'clock tonight.
Election workers in Clackamas County are already working overtime after a printing error caused election machines to reject more than half of the mailed-in ballots. Pat Doris took an in-depth look last night on the story.
A problem with the barcodes on the ballots in Clackamas County is causing nearly 2/3 of them to be kicked out and not counted by the vote counting machines. The county clerk runs elections there and told me that the problem is with specifically the barcodes that are printed on the ballots. They're not quite dense enough, she said, and a tad blurry, leading the counting machines to spit them out.
Well, I'm really sorry it happened because we really want to build trust in voters. But because it happened, we had to come up with a solution, which I think the one we have is really the only one we can do.
There are likely tens of thousands of ballots affected there in Clackamas County. Here's the fix. 2 workers, one from each party, are now having to fill out brand new ballots by hand, make sure they're identical to the ballot that was rejected by the machine, then feed it back in to be counted. It is a tedious process that adds time to the entire production. Clackamas County added 37 more workers from other departments to help out. By our calculation, though, the barcode issue could add a couple of days to the effort to get a final vote tally there in Clackamas County. Anytime there's a flaw like this, it raises concerns over how secure our elections are. We took a close look at the steps Oregon takes to ensure that your vote counts. You can watch our entire report now on KGW's YouTube channel. Just look for the Stories section.
Also, a heads up for voters in Multnomah County. Elections officials say your ballot may have been stolen. A U.S. Postal Service mailbox was taken from Southeast Portland back on May 4th. It was the blue collection box at Reed College Place and Woodstock Boulevard. If you use that box, everything dropped off before 11:30 the morning of May 4th was safely collected. But if you use that box later in the day, you will want to contact county election officials or use the online portal to check the status of your ballot.
So as you mentioned just a moment ago, you have until 8 o'clock tonight to drop off your ballot at any official drop box location. And we made it easy to find where exactly those are. If you text the word election to that number on your screen, 503-226-5088, we'll text you back with a link to the story on our website with all that information. And we also have a special online election show that starts at 7:30 tonight featuring all the latest results. So you can check that out at KGW.com, on the KGW mobile app, and also on the KGW YouTube channel.
The state of Oregon and the Public Defender's Office will need their own lawyers after being named in a recent lawsuit. 4 inmates are suing because they can't get representation. There's a shortage of public defenders. Devin Haskins joins us this morning. And Devin, this could turn into a class action lawsuit.
Yeah, that lawsuit says there's 500 inmates around the state that have been charged with a crime, but they can't get a public defender. They say one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit has been in jail for over 2 weeks and can't afford his bail. And they can't get a bail hearing without a public defender. The shortage of public defenders has been a growing issue this year. Earlier this year, the American Bar Association said that Oregon has only 1/3 of the public defenders it needs. The lawsuit names both Governor Kate Brown and Stephen Singer, who is the head of Oregon's Office of Public Defense Services. The plaintiffs aren't asking for more public defenders. They want the state to either provide an attorney for them or dismiss the charges. They also suggest DAs take a closer look at what charges are being filed. The lawyers in the case say the first days after an arrest are the most crucial to gather evidence.
If a criminal defendant has a defense that depends on finding and preserving video, it must be done quickly. And if it's not done quickly, it's going to disappear forever. So it is unacceptable to allow a delay in the appointment of counsel for weeks or months on end.
All right, so going back to that growing demand for public defenders, that report by the ABA says each current public defender would need to work an impossible 26 hours a day to catch up on that caseload. Drew?
All right, Devin, thanks for that update this morning. Our next story comes from Hood River. That's where police say a man broke into an 89-year-old woman's home, bound her to a chair with electrical tape, and after committing that burglary, he broke into the home next door. Catherine Cook brings us more now from Hood River.
You just don't think about this. It's a community of older people.
In Hood River, neighbors at the Mid-Columbia Mobile Estates are reeling over what police say happened here last Tuesday. That includes Dale Davis.
Oh yeah, we're still talking about it. And some of the other ones saying they're going to get security cameras now.
At around 1:40 Tuesday afternoon, Hood River County Sheriff's deputies responded to a burglary at a home in this retirement community. Inside, they found an 89-year-old woman bound to a chair with electrical tape.
It's one of those ones that shocks the conscience, right? Somebody of that age being preyed upon in that way is disturbing to anybody in the community. And
Hood River County Patrol Sergeant Joel Ives says the suspect, 51-year-old Kevin McCallum of Gresham, had forced his way into the victim's home. Court documents say he threatened her with a taser and appeared to have used mascara to draw a goatee on himself. After that burglary, investigators say he broke into the home next door. No one was there at the time. Court documents say the suspect actually knew the owners of the second home he broke into. Investigators learned he'd met their son in prison.
Well, from what I understand, was somebody was on drugs. So I thought they had money. That's what he was here for.
On Thursday, after a multi-agency investigation, the U.S. Marshals arrested McCallum in Gresham.
we certainly wanted to get him into custody as soon as possible, especially since he wasn't local.
He's lodged in the Northern Oregon Regional Correctional Facility on multiple charges, including kidnapping, coercion, and burglary. As for the victim,
she was pretty upset, pretty shook up.
Dale says she's doing as good as she can be.
Went over and gave her a hug and told her I was sorry it happened to her.
In Hood River, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
Now to some of the other headlines that we're tracking for you this morning. Oregon State Police are looking for witnesses to a car crash that killed 2 people in Sweet Home. This happened on Highway 20 and Liberty Road last Saturday. OSP says Robert Prettyman from Brownsville was driving that red Mazda. He swerved between lanes, hitting another car head-on, killing both the driver and the passenger. Prettyman is now in the hospital. So is a 4-year-old who was in the car with them. That child has critical injuries. Authorities say Prettyman was impaired at the time of the crash, but they didn't elaborate. We now know the name of the man accused of shooting at a passing car in the Lentz neighborhood last Wednesday. 29-year-old Kalen Duffy faces several charges, including attempted murder and assault. Police say he fired shots at a passing car on Southeast Flavel, right near the Springwater corridor. The driver was injured by flying glass. Duffy suffered a gunshot wound, but it's unclear exactly how that happened. And police need help finding whoever vandalized Maranatha Church in Northeast Portland. Someone spray painted disturbing phrases on the side of the building. The pastor calls it a hate crime. This happened sometime between late Sunday night and early Monday morning. Someone also stole the catalytic converter on the church van, but police aren't sure yet if those two crimes are connected. And those are some of your Tuesday morning headlines.
Well, it's no secret we've had a very cool and a very wet spring so far, so not a lot of people are thinking about wildfire season, but state leaders definitely have it on their mind. And as Joe Ranieri explains, they're definitely keeping their guard up when it comes to the potential for wildfire dangers.
One thing we'll definitely see this summer, much warmer weather, more sunshine, and the start of wildfire season.
We are seeing conditions in place that indicate another challenging fire season ahead.
And once it arrives, it's expected to be bad again this year. Governor Kate Brown, along with several state officials, are warning that we'll see wildfire season quickly take off, especially heading into July and August. Major General Michael Stencil with the Oregon National Guard says crews are already trained and prepared, especially when it comes to attacking the fire from the air.
We're able to sustain 2 aircraft with 520-gallon water buckets for dropping. And then 1 Chinook is available for full-time support with a 1,500-gallon bucket.
While the northwest part of the state is out of a drought thanks to the more than 11 inches of rain we've seen since March, other places aren't so lucky. Mike Shaw, who's the fire chief with the Oregon Department of Forestry, knows firsthand how bad it is outside of the valley.
I happen to live in Eastern Oregon, and I can tell you that while it has been cooler and damper, the actual accumulation of rain has been marginal at best.
This red area of the state is where crews are expected to be spending a lot of time this summer.
The same underlying conditions that existed in 2021 down in Klamath and Lake counties that resulted in the 3rd largest wildfire in history in Oregon will still be present in 2022.
Conditions that are going to keep crews busy all summer long.
We know this is going to be a very challenging wildfire year, and so your efforts to be prepared will help all of us.
Joe Ranieri, KGW News.
Rod is also weighing in on this. You've got a drought monitor there over your shoulder.
This is a map that Joe just showed you, but I wanted to go back to it for a moment. So, this ongoing drought map and the worst of the drought conditions is kind of brick red color that I've circled. This gets up into parts of Central Oregon, drops down into parts of the Klamath Basin. So it sees exceptionally dry areas that have the alert the highest as we get going into wildfire season. But with that said, we actually saw improvements over the winter in places like the Blue Mountains. We saw improvements with the decent snowpack across much of the Deschutes National Forest area. And we saw, great news, of course, here on the west side of our state. And if you look at the projected weather models through the summer, there is reason to be hopeful. I mean, I think this cooler and wetter weather pattern than normal continues through next month. I still think the first real eye concern for, we could get our first stretch of extreme heat holds off until August. I'm not saying we're going to have that in August, but I am saying that I don't see that in July. So there's reason to keep your fingers crossed that maybe this will be, for us in Oregon, not that bad of a season. Now, again, I'm looking at this through the eyes of the weather projections more so than what's actually happening at ground level. All right, this month so far, 2.58 inches, right? That's already more than we typically would get for the entire month. And we're looking at the wettest May. Just looking at to show you 5.55 inches back in 1998. I don't think we're going to do that. All right, partly cloudy skies early this morning from the Wells Fargo building, 49 degrees. Going to be a nice day today. Temperatures 39 in Newport. It's actually one of the cooler spots in the state, 37 over in Baker City. Kelso just now dipping into the upper 30s, which is where we thought we'd be this morning. Futurecast shows we're all dry at 3 o'clock today. No concerns there in our 7-day forecast. We could get up to 70. Yesterday it was 66. A couple days of rain tomorrow and Thursday, and now every single forecast model, I looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, they all show this, a dry weekend with temperatures getting up into the 70s.
That's a beauty.
Hurrah!
Yeah, hurrah is right. Thank you, Rod.